Hello, everybody. Well, it's happened. We have now entered that time of year where anything you go to after 5 o'clock, you are going to in the dark, right? So you're waking up in the morning and it's dark. You're leaving for work, it's dark. That's our world here in Portland, right? Is that we have what seems like more than our fair share of nighttime. So I'm fascinated by that particular condition. And I'm frankly a little astonished and sad that as designers, landscape architects, planners, we rarely think about nighttime as the starting condition for our design. At the most, what we'll often do is develop something as a daytime idea, and then we'll go, oh, we gotta make it work for night. But what would happen is if we actually started with nighttime as the beginning point for our design as opposed to an afterthought. So tonight, I get to be on my soapbox and make my case for why I think we should do that, think about nighttime more, and the kind of things that might be possible for us to do at night. As Kurt mentioned, one of the things that I've done as part of my research is with some really creative people help to develop the Portland Winter Light Festival. Now, there's a lot of reasons why people are interested in the Portland Light Festival and wanted to do it. It's a great economic development tool. They did $2 million worth of economic development last year, which is fantastic. It's a way to showcase artists from around the region. That's really great as well. But for me personally, my agenda is, in a temporary way, we can begin to experiment with things that are happening at night and try to make places a little bit more interesting and a little bit better. This happens to be under a bridge, right? Not a particularly desirable place, even during the daytime, but at night can be really, really problematic. And here the work of Jen Fuller completely transforms the nature of what it means to be underneath a piece of infrastructure in the city. And granted, these are all kind of temporary installations. And I am interested in permanent changes to nighttime and permanent thinking about nighttime. So part of that is to going to really good nighttime places. And as far as I'm concerned, one of the best, sorry Paris, but one of the best is Amsterdam. And Amsterdam has, on average, about half the light level of Portland, right? And yet you walk that city and it feels safe. It feels inviting. The things that are illuminated brightly are the things that you want illuminated because they let you know where you are. So the North Church and the West Church, it's really great. The other thing that's really kind of valuable, I can't see you right now because of the light in my face, but what I can promise you is in Amsterdam, the light in Amsterdam is going to make you all look good. And that's an important part of being in a city, is everybody not only feeling good, feeling safe, but gosh, if cities could make us look good, that's great too. And that has to do with the warmth of the light and where that light is coming from. If we come to an American city, New Orleans is a really good nighttime city. And not just because of the hurricanes. I mean, I think, and by hurricanes, I mean the drink, not the weather. And it gets kind of its reputation as a party city, but the reality is the light levels in most of the city are really low. And that's by design. They've got a lot of businesses and streets that are lit with gas lamps. And they want you to appreciate those gas lamps, so they've gotten rid of the street lights, and so that light from the gas lamps or from porches is present. And even in the neighborhoods, the trees have overgrown the street light, so it's gotten darker. And there's a tradition of everybody having on a porch light. And I gotta say, when you're in a neighborhood where everybody's turned on a porch light, you feel like people are home, you feel safe, you feel welcome and invited to those places. So I'm a big fan of New Orleans as a nighttime city. So there are some really great nighttime cities out there. Portland's not one of them. And I don't want to be overly critical here, but I am going to call it out because I think that there's some possibilities to make it really awesome. And granted, this is a huge generalization, I've got to admit, right? Because there are some really nice spots in Portland that are great at night. But we have got a lot of territory that's not particularly wonderful at night, and I'm going to tell you why I think that's the case. And the first thing is, for a city that prides itself on being pedestrian friendly, right? The nighttime is dominated by auto-centric light, right? So first of all, cars come with their own headlights, and those headlights are meant to make you be able to stop from hitting a deer at 70 miles an hour on a rural road. But when they come in the city, those headlights don't turn down at all. They're still there, right? Still bright as ever. So they come really equipped with it, and there's a lot of them, and they're right at eye level for us as pedestrians. So that's problematic. But just in case, we then every 50 feet on center put a great big street light along the streets, which illuminates our streets in ways that, again, are about the moving and parked cars. Now, they'll say it's for pedestrians, but in reality, it really is focused towards the automobile. And then we've got the parking lots, and those come with bright lights. Even though we may not be occupying those cars, we're still worried about the safety of those. And we'll talk about safety here in a second. So we've got those brightly lit. And then just make sure that at 40 miles an hour through your windshield, you can see the gas station. Those are incredibly brightly lit. What I can tell you, in all honesty, is behind that gas station is a beautiful turn-of-the-century neighborhood, but you wouldn't know it because you can't see it at night, because the bright light is really causing us to only focus on those aspects of it. And then signage, right? All that illuminated billboards. There are 30 times more illuminated billboards in Portland than there are illuminated works of art. I'm going to pause there because I still get chilled when I say that. 30 times more illuminated billboards than illuminated works of art. That doesn't seem like we're kind of conveying our identity after dark, right? That's not who we are as Portland. So that's a problem. And then we keep putting on lights on stuff that we really don't need, right? As you walk out of this venue tonight and you are heading home, I want you to start to pay attention. Instead of slug bug, right, the new game I want you to play is how many dumpsters are illuminated at night. That's the game. That's our new game, right? So what happens then is those dumpsters become our nighttime identity. And then the converse to that is we oftentimes don't put light on the good things, right? So this is two images, day and night, of a church just a couple blocks from here. That's a lovely work of architecture, would be a delightful thing to see at night, and yet is largely dark. I'm happy to say they've actually put some light on this church since I took this photograph. Not because I said so, but they came to that conclusion themselves, which is great. And just down the street is this apartment building. And the top of that apartment building, those little punch-outs that are up there, those are downlights that have long burned out. But what happens at night, right, is that instead of seeing that building, we're seeing, again, the billboard, and we're seeing the parking booth that are a part of that, right? So we're not kind of putting out the right things. There are cities like Sydney that have spent a lot of time thinking about nighttime. And one of the reasons they did it was they realized that over 30% of their economy happens over dark in Sydney. So they started rethinking transportation, trash collection, and so it's not just about lighting. There's a whole lot of other things that they need to be thinking about, and they are now starting to think about those and studying them and coming up with new strategies. So it can be done, and there are places that are doing it. What I will offer, though, is it's not simplistic solutions that we're looking for. And one of the things we do like our simplistic solutions. We really do. And the one that we've come up with for nighttime is this idea of dark skies, where we just tell the manufacturers, just point all the light downward, right? And that will solve so much. Our cities will get so much better. But I'm going to try to make the case that that's not really true. And part of me is biased, so I told you I was going to be on my soapbox, so here's part of the opinion piece on this, right? Is yes, it's great to see the stars and see the skies, but in the cities, it's equally important to make safe, vibrant, wonderful places for the inhabitants of the city right here on the ground, right? So we've got to balance that. Now, I am a fan of making cities substantially darker, but I think we have to be really strategic about that, and I think we want to be really nuanced about that. So this is not what I'm advocating for, although if there was a neighborhood that said, we want to be this, I think we should have that discussion, but I'm largely kind of in favor of bringing light levels way, way down, right? Now, dark skies, this is Tucson, Arizona, and Tucson is one of those cities that's fully adopted the dark skies as an idea, and what you'll notice is we can barely make out any buildings. We don't see any landscape. What it does with those lights just pointing down is, yes, the skies are darker. We can't see the sky more visibly, but it's really, again, magnifying that car-centric landscape. So you really don't know where you are. Now, if I bring you back to Portland with our old street lights, right, that spills some light out, then all of a sudden we get some light off the architecture. So we've got Portland above, Tucson down below, right? And yes, it's not fair, but this presentation isn't fair. But even still, right, there's an idea that we want to put light in good places, right? We don't just necessarily want to point it down. That's too simplistic an idea, which brings me back to New Orleans. Why is New Orleans such a lovely place to walk at night? Well, part of it is, again, lack of street lights, an emphasis on the pedestrian, porch lights, and one other additional thing, light coming from the interior of buildings, right? Now, all of us have walked around in neighborhoods in the evening, and isn't it kind of lovely to go, and it sounds like I'm borderline creepy here, but I do like going, that's a beautiful work of art that they've got in their dining room. I can't believe they painted their wall that color, but it's a really nice piece of artwork, right? It's nice to know that people are home. It's great to have that light emanating from them. And in the case of businesses, even if they're not open, the ability to window shop at night, we're finding that has economic value to neighborhoods. So the ability to kind of see to the interior at night is a real, real bonus. So the students here at PSU in the architecture department, I had them experiment with that. So that's Multnomah Village up at the top. That's the existing condition up there, right? So we got the street light, it's auto-centric, and then I had them do their magic with the computer and visual programming, and we switched it. We made the street light less dominant, and we began to turn on the lights of the shops along Multnomah Village, and that is our possibility, right? The top is our reality, the bottom becomes our possibility, right? And we aren't effectively using much more energy to do that. We're just putting the light in a different place. So there's some emerging technologies that are going to allow us to make some interesting choices. And I'm not advocating for any of these. I just want to let you know that there's some interesting ways in which we could start to think about nighttime. And the first thing is that light in the past has either been on or off, right? And we've got things that we can do so much differently than that. We can dim light, we can change its color, and frankly, what's really awesome is those phones that you're carrying with you right now, we've got telephone poles that can actually recognize that you are there, and you get off the bus, and the light comes on because it knows you're there. And all the lights that guide you to your house can come on. And once you're to your house, they can dim back down again, right? So we can get a lot smarter than just on and off. This happens to be a park where the light in the park is controlled by the people in the park. They get to control the brightness of it, and they get to control the color of that light. So we can take ownership of space and transform that space as we need it for the events that we want to hold. In the Netherlands, they're putting down miles and miles of bioluminescent paving, right? So we're putting the light on the surface where we want it to be. Not everywhere, just where we want that surface to walk. And it's kind of beautiful, right? It's really kind of lovely. These two are having some success genetically modifying plants to glow in the dark. So imagine instead of street lights, think Avatar, you've got plants that are glowing, right? I know, yeah, that's the right gesture for that. It's kind of creepy for that, right? And again, I'm not advocating this. I'm just saying we are not limited to the way in which we've illuminated cities as we're doing right now, that there are some interesting options out there. And with projection media, right, we can transform our trees as light sources and animate them, right? They can be something more than just trees. Our buildings, with projection, we can start to play games, as in the lower images on our buildings. And this one is called Project Voyeur in New York, where they took the blank side of a building and projected 9 different kind of scenarios on the wall, and people come down to watch murders and affairs and ghosts, right? That these stories kind of unfold as we watch the side of that building. Do we want every building in the city to be that? I don't think so, but there can be some really interesting, exciting moments at night. This one is you take a selfie with your camera of your eyes, and then the image of your eye gets projected, not projected, but displayed, LED displayed on the side of a building. I do have some concerns about adolescent boys and the use of this technology, but I won't go into any details on that other than to say I'm glad they've limited it to images of eyes. I think that's a good idea. This is a park and ride that they have normally just have typical street lights on it, but Arup Partners in New York instead of the lights did projections for skateboarders and bicyclists to kind of play games and do these mazes on the ground. So this thing that we've abandoned at night and largely feels unsafe now gets occupied by the kids in the neighborhood to engage with that paved surface in a new way. In Montreal, they've got their theater district is problematic in that their theaters are kind of far apart from one another. And so there really wasn't much energy to that. So at night, they projected all these red dots that would connect from theater to theater. And now you really feel the sense of that as a theater district. It also happens to be a red light district, or was formerly a red light district, so it's kind of recalling some of the history of that place as well. This is a light feature that starts to get more active as the train comes, right? So we don't just need an LED that says in 4 minutes. We can have this really active, vibrant light fixture that gets us excited about the train finally coming. In Japan, they get to walk around their community every night in moonlight. These giant masts project an artificial moonlight over the city, so there's this dull, beautiful glow that allows them to walk in moon shadow from house to house. It's a really lovely way to move around. Now, a lot of what I've been talking about has been light-based, right? And I don't want to make this completely about light, because nighttime is much richer and much more interesting than that. And one of the things for sure is that we get afraid at night. So night is dangerous. Night is the time of crime, although statistically, not as much as you might think. But our perception about nighttime leads us that way. And I think that's deep-seated, right? Because at nighttime, historically, we went from predator to prey. And that prey instinct is still kind of deeply seated in us. Because we are largely built for daytime, right? To see during the day, to move during the day. So nighttime is not really our physiologically safe territory. So what do we do about safety? Well, some would say add more light, put in these light fixtures. But what we're finding in a lot of the research is that this is exactly the wrong strategy. That what's happening is that people that are occupying those bright areas are not able to survey their territory. In the same way that you can see me really well, but I can't see you all that well, right? And the other thing that's going on is that criminals are using those bright lights to case potential victims. So they're looking to see what kind of jewelry you're wearing. They're looking to see where you keep your wallet, right? So the very thing that we think is keeping us safe is maybe not doing that at all. And that what they're starting to suggest is now that low, even light is the best way to kind of keep us safe. Amsterdam, New Orleans, right? Let's move away from this as a strategy. And sometimes we want the darkness. In Spain, they've got a situation where there's a lot of adults that are living in extended households with their family, right? So you've got 20-somethings that are living with grandma and mom and dad, and right? And courtship in a small apartment in Barcelona, right, is difficult with grandma there, right? And so their parks tend to be on the very dark side. And what I can tell you is that in those shadows of that imagery up in there are lots of benches. And on every one of those benches are lovers, right? And what I can also tell you is they did not appreciate me being there as part of that. But it was an important image because I needed to share it with you. So we got fear that's important at nighttime. We got nightlife. We got industry that's starting to go later into night. But at the same time, we've got this need for sleep. Nighttime is our place for sleep. But there's human health considerations have to be made. And how do we design cities where we want an active kind of cafe culture, but we're also really interested in supporting sleep and supporting human health? Those things start to matter. And then wildlife, right? Our light is incredibly disruptive to wildlife. We've got birds migrating right through the heart of our city that are completely disoriented by the lights. And there's certain colors that affect them negatively. So blue light is a really problematic light for birds. So we've got to work on that. In the end, finally, what I would offer up is that we are really creative. We are a creative community here in Portland. And I feel certain that if we put our minds to it, we can create really great places for people at night, where they're safe, where they're enjoying nighttime. We can create great streets at night. We can create great parks at nighttime. This is all within our reach. And we can create places where the iconic elements, the things that we want people to remember about our city, are the things that are visible at night. So we have control of the character of that place. We've got to go back to this slide, though. It requires study. It requires public will. And first and foremost, it requires that we all move beyond the familiar. Right now, nighttime is so familiar to all of us, right, that we don't even recognize how much better it could be. So maybe that's our first step, is that all of us begin to recognize that our cities can actually be better than they currently are. And once we recognize that and we work towards it, I feel certain that Portland will indeed be one of those spectacular nighttime cities. Thank you very much.